Hi there, this is Fiona from IELTS with Fiona and the Members Academy. In this lesson, we're looking at a slightly different general training reading. So if you're doing academic, please don't switch off because this is a passage 3 general training reading. And usually they are quite straightforward. I call them descriptive passages like chronological texts about famous people or inventions, the same thing that you get in academic reading passage 1. But this one is more discursive. It's that kind of reading where you have a question that's posed at the beginning, and it's more like you would write at university or read even at university. It poses a question and then it says there are different theories about this. So you've got a set of questions about the researchers who have their own opinions. And therefore, I've got a lot to say about this reading text that I think will be really useful for your reading and for your writing. So get a cup of tea and a pen and paper, and let's start. The first thing I'd like to say about this, it's called How Animals Keep Fit. Now, this time I did something I haven't done before, and again, I think this will be really useful for you. I listen to French podcasts, and they do a slow version for people like me trying to learn, understand French, but then they do a fast summary at the end. And because you've listened to the slow version, you can then understand the fast version. And I found that really useful. So, what I did, I went to good old Chat GPT. I put this reading article in ChatGPT and I asked it to give me a summary. And it's just a short summary, and I'm going to read it to you. But when I read it, I thought, that summary is actually quite advanced, it's quite difficult. So I asked ChatGPT to give me a slightly easier version. And now what I can do, I've got two summaries and I can compare them in terms of language. What's different between the advanced version and what I think is an intermediate version? And I've listed all of those differences because I think you'll find them really useful for your writing. So let's look at the advanced article summary first, because this might then help you with the comprehension questions. So here's just the short first paragraph. It says, this article explores how animals maintain fitness differently from humans. So if you think about how you keep fit, do animals need to do the same thing to stay fit? Think about your pets, your cats and your dogs. What do they do to stay fit? According to the article, unlike humans who need consistent training to prepare for endurance challenges like marathons, many animals maintain or enhance their fitness without deliberate exercise. So, this is key. According to research, animals don't need to exercise, but we do. It gives you two examples throughout, so don't worry about this vocabulary. The first example is about barnacle geese. So just think about geese, ignore that barnacle. They prepare for long migrations. So, keywords here, by the way, migrations, hibernation, these are all really useful words for IELTS anyway. So the geese prepare for their long migrations, meaning they fly from one country to another, by simply eating a lot and resting. And this strengthens their hearts and muscles just by eating a lot and resting. And then the second example is about bears. They simply maintain muscle mass during hibernation, so while they're sleeping, without movement, probably due to biological cues like temperature changes, which trigger muscle preserving processes. So again, the bears do nothing, they sleep, but when the temperature changes, this kind of preserves their muscles. The article suggests that in animals, physical fitness is often a result of environmental cues rather than exercise. Cue is CUES, plural, meaning a kind of trigger. Something changes in the weather, and this is the cue for them to strengthen their muscles. Migratory birds, for instance, can fly long distances if they are exposed to the right daylight patterns. So maybe the change in the light helps them without needing specific training. In contrast, humans evolved to require physical activity for fitness due to evolutionary pressures that tied muscle maintenance to exercise. So it simply says the way we evolved, we can only maintain muscles by exercising. This makes humans unique, as other animals generally only need short bursts of activity for survival, not sustained endurance. Humans, therefore, are the only species that actively trains to reach peak physical performance. Now, that was the advanced summary. I hope it more or less made sense, but if not, I'm going to read to you the comparison between the advanced one and the intermediate, and I hope you'll notice a really interesting thing. So, to summarize, humans need consistent training. That's the advanced. Intermediate version, humans need to exercise regularly. So the first thing I noticed was how they only use noun forms in the advanced version, but in the intermediate version, they use verb forms, which are much easier to understand. So I'll say that again. Humans need consistent training. Humans need to exercise regularly. So this is great paraphrasing practice here. If you can switch between them, that'll help you. Consistent training means to exercise regularly. In order to maintain fitness means to stay fit. So again, maintain fitness. Fitness is the noun. To stay fit is the verb. Without deliberate exercise, without needing to train. This strengthens their hearts. Now, I talk a lot about word formation and how this can make your language more advanced. The word strengthen, yes, it's a verb, but it's more advanced than the simpler version, which helps them develop strong hearts. So strong is an easy adjective, but strengthen is the more advanced verb form. Bears maintain muscle mass during hibernation. That's the noun form. Intermediate, bears can hibernate for months without losing muscle. So we had maintain muscle mass without losing muscle, the verb. Losing is the verb. Humans require physical activity for fitness. That's the high level, intermediate level. Our bodies need exercise to stay fit. So even there, you've got the word humans and our bodies. It's easier, isn't it? Or it's less formal, it's less academic. Animals need only short bursts of activity for survival, the noun form. Can you guess what the verb form is? In order to survive. So you've got for survival, in order to survive. So that really stood out for me, and I thought it was a really useful exercise that you can just do using ChatGPT for free. And I think it's really worthwhile. I'm going to keep doing it. Let me know what you think. So coming now to the actual text, I've highlighted a few words. We talked about migration. We talked about hibernation. So it's when bears go to sleep during the winter. Another keyword here is predator. It's on my list of keywords, always comes up in the reading. So remember cat and mouse. Cat is the predator, mouse is the prey. So one idea is that animals keep fit by escaping predators. This is an assumption. Assumption is a really key word in IELTS. It's what we believe to be true. Now, it's the aim of the passage to either prove that or to show that it's false. And that's what you will do when you go to university. So the reading starts with a kind of story that everyone can relate to. It says, no one would dream of running a marathon without making serious effort to train for it. But it says animals like barnacle goose, the barnacle geese, they do the 3,000 kilometer migration and they don't do anything for it. They just basically sit on the water and eat a lot. Until recently, nobody had really asked whether exercise is as tightly connected to fitness in the rest of the animal kingdom as it is for us humans. We assume that animals maintain their fitness because they run around trying to find food and escape predators. However, Halsey, so this is one of the researchers, Lewis Halsey, points out that this may not necessarily be the case. And he gives the example of the cat sitting around all day doing nothing, but then they can suddenly move very fast when they want to. And it's the same for bears and it's the same for geese. So that's the background. Then they ask the question, so if exercise isn't the key to physical strength, what is? And then it gives some evidence, maybe about the falling temperatures or the lack of light. And this might help animals know that the big physical challenge is coming for the birds, for example. And they give an example of how they test songbirds. They put them in a wind tunnel and they can fly for 10 hours, even though they were just sitting in a cage doing nothing. The second half comes back to the humans. The second half of the reading comes back to the humans. And it explains how we evolved. And it basically explains our lives were unpredictable. We had to run to escape danger, but we had to keep muscle mass to a minimum because it burns a lot of calories. And we didn't know where the food was coming from. So we didn't want to build muscle because muscle uses calories. And it basically says that cats are fast, but they don't need to run very far. whereas humans needed to adapt to run slower but for longer. Especially on the African savanna, natural selection made us into supremely adapted endurance athletes capable of running prey into the ground over long distances. And that apparently is what research has found, is that we developed to chase our prey over long distances. If we don't do that, then our muscles degenerate. All right, so let's have a look at the questions. The first set of questions, there are 3 multiple choice questions, and you'll notice they're actually spread out, but we can easily locate them from the first part of the question. So the first one says, the writer discusses marathon runners and barnacle geese to introduce the idea. So why does he compare these marathon runners and barnacle geese? Well, I'm just going to give you the answer. It says the answer is serious training is not always necessary for physical achievement. That's why he says the goose just sits on the water and eats a lot. The other distractors just don't make sense. I'm not going to go into them now. The second multiple choice question, you have to jump down because it says the writer says that human muscles. So you jump to the second half of the reading where it introduces the discussion about human muscles. And again, I think you already know from the summary, the writer says that human muscles use up a lot of energy even when resting. And this is where the writer talks about each kilogram contributes 10 or 15 calories a day to our metabolism when resting. It doesn't sound like much until you realize that muscles account for 40% of the average person's body mass. I think that's tricky, but I think when you see it written down, you'll see that's what he's saying about the muscles. Finally, multiple choice. The writer says that in order to survive, early humans developed the ability to, and hopefully you can finish that sentence now. The answer is run long distances. Capable, remember, we said, of running prey into the ground. So catching their prey by running so far that the prey became tired, and that's how we caught our prey, apparently. So those are the 3 multiple choice questions. They're okay. The next part is gap fill. And always look at the title, what is the key to physical fitness? Because that will help you find where the answers are in the text. And you'll jump back to that topic sentence where it says, so if exercise isn't the key to physical strength, then what is? So that's where you'll find all of the answers to this gap fill. And hopefully now, I think you could probably guess them. So the number 31, in biological terms, when an animal is physically fit, its body changes, becoming more powerful and something. So we need an adjective, and it's somehow connected with being more powerful. In the text, it says, biologically speaking, all it means is that the body has undergone changes that make it stronger and more efficient. So stronger is the synonym for more powerful, and efficient is the answer. Why do they like that word, I say it again because of the spelling and the pronunciation. It's all connected. Efficient means it works properly. If you heard that word, you recognize it immediately. Then when you see it in the reading text, you'll know exactly what it means and you'll find that answer very quickly. The next gap fill is an example from the bears. In bears, this change may be caused by colder weather or a lack of something. Colder weather or a lack of something. So it must be a noun, a lack of something. So you're looking for a noun connected with colder weather. So it says in the text, in animals such as bears, these changes appear to be triggered by cues such as falling temperatures or insufficient food. So, falling temperatures is the colder weather, insufficient, meaning not enough, a lack of food is the answer. That's 32. Now, interesting, I want to say this before I forget, because I did something this week in the daily tips about words which have double O, like food and flood, and how they're pronounced differently. So I just did a thing about how to pronounce food, the double O, and flood and book. And, you know, every little helps. Wait until you see now question 34. So, question 33, it says, during something, certain compounds are released into their something. Right? Remember, we're talking about bears. During something, certain compounds are released into their something. In the text, it says, in the months of hibernation, so that's your answer, hibernation. Again, Tion, they love that spelling. These prompt the release of compounds which are carried to the bear's muscles in their blood. So the compounds are released into their blood. And we saw the word food, double O. Now we've got blood, double O. And we covered that this week. So if you're doing little by little my daily tips, you'll see them come up in the IELTS test. Finally, last one, 35. In the case of barnacle geese, the change may be due to a variation in something. So these are the geese. What changes? Barnacle geese may be responding to an environmental change such as temperature. And that's the answer, temperature. And again, I've got a whole list of those words that end in ch, like nature, culture. And they're really important in the listening test because of the pronunciation. So that is the gap fill. The last 5 questions, 36 to 40, are quite difficult, I think, for general training. So again, if you're doing academic, this is really useful for you. The last 5 questions are about the researchers. So there are 5 researchers mentioned, 4, but there are 5 questions. So remember, one researcher maybe said 2 things, so you can use the same letter more than once. So let's look at these. A belief about how animals stay fit is possibly untrue. So we're looking for somebody who said that our assumption, that's the synonym for belief, may be wrong. And it's Halsey who points out that the assumption that animals maintain fitness because of the exercise they get, finding food, may not necessarily be the case. That's Halsey. A. 37. it may not be possible to train all animals to improve their speed. Well, that was the conclusion, really. If you go right down to the last paragraph, exercise physiologist Ross Tucker says, we don't know whether training would enhance their ability. He gives examples of horses and greyhounds. We don't know. So that's the doubt, the language of doubt. It may not be possible. So D, Ross Tucker, is 37. If you look at 38, one type of bird has demonstrated fitness when exposed to a stimulus in experimental conditions. So this was about when they put the small birds into the wind tunnel and they fly for 10 hours. That was an experiment. And that was Chris Guglielmo. And that's the only mention of an experiment in the text. So 38 is B. 39, human energy use developed in a different way from that of animals. So this is the keyword developed, evolved. So go to the part where it talks about evolution. Our physiology evolved. This makes us evolutionarily different from most other animals. That is Daniel Lieberman. The answer is C. And the last one, 40, is difficult. One type of bird may develop more strength when the weather becomes warmer or cooler. So this is Halsey, who suggests that barnacle geese may be responding to environmental change, such as temperature, which helps their bodies know that a big physical challenge is coming. So he doesn't exactly say when the weather becomes warmer or cooler, they may develop more strength, but it's one of those read between the lines. A big physical challenge is coming. Environmental change, temperature, warmer, cooler, all of those key words will help us get this final question 40 correct. Now, it's difficult. It's not an easy text. It's very academic, I think, in style. So do go and find that text. You can just Google it, how animals keep fit, or you can find my explanations in the Bronze Academy on my website. So that's just a very basic place to get all of my tips. If you want more, you want my support, that's the Members Academy. The Bronze Academy is where you can find, if you're just starting, all of my tips. And I've just started some new grammar lessons on the page. I've started with the present simple. So please go and check that out and do let me know if you've got any requests. Thanks very much for listening. If you're still here right to the end, very well done. You've completed a marathon in IELTS reading today. So very well done. And do let me know if you have any questions. Thanks for listening, and we'll chat soon. Bye-bye.